Hi to all. In this video, we will cover a couple of the questions in the practice quizzes, including the calculation of the forward of an index, in which case we are given a convenience yield. So as we had seen before, right, if we have the a forward price, which basically we are getting from the spot, and then the financial cost, and then the storage cost, and then the expected risk premium. We, in the end, one of the things we did is we would subtract something called benefits of carry. If we are working with an equity index, right? In this case, maybe we have hundreds, maybe we have thousands of stocks that are pooled together in this portfolio, let's assume. Then in that case, it is not that straightforward to simply subtract the dividend, because dividends will happen for some stocks. For other stocks, we will not have dividends, and for each stocks, dividends will be received at different points in time. So it is a very tedious task to subtract dividends one by one in a discrete form. So in this case, what we do is we just look at the problem from a different perspective, which is we change to continuous time. So in continuous time, what we do is we can have this calculation, which is the spot price plus the financial cost. Usually the way we do this in discrete time is S0 multiplied by 1 plus r to the power of t. In continuous time, we will have something like S0 multiplied by exponential of rt. We can use this T, capital T, where R is expressed annually, annual rate, and T is the time, right? And then basically once we have that, then we can get this expected price at expiration, which is also, we can also consider as the price of our forward contract. So once we are given a convenience yield, this convenience yield, basically what it's telling us is, if we assume this is delta, then what this is telling us is, well, if this is a 2%, basically there is a 2% of the value of your portfolio, and that 2%, the dividends you're receiving are equivalent to this 2% rate. So the way to do this is this expected value of the stock price at expiration, or in other words, the forward price at the same, which is the same as the forward price. We would look at this in the following way: spot is zero, spot price of the stock of the index, right? And then we would multiply this by exponential, and then we would have R, the rate, right? But then we would subtract this delta, and then we would multiply by time. So basically that's it. So let's now switch to the problems we have, which are the ones we see in the practice quizzes, and it will become very straightforward to solve this problem actually. So once again, the moment you see these, you're noticing the problem, you're reading the problem, let's just type the different values we see in the problem. For example, one of the things is that the level of S&P 500 in this case is 3,966, right? So we have this value for S&P 500, and then we have that the relevant interest rate is 5%. Next, we have this convenience yield, right? Dividend yield, which is a 1%. So exactly, now this is one thing I was almost missing, is that this is a 3-month futures contract, right? So the delivery is 3 months, right? So 3 months, in other words, 3 months is a quarter, right? So now this T, and as a matter of fact, we had this formula expected of ST is equal to S0 multiplied by exponential of R minus the dividend yield multiplied by time, right? And all of this is the exponent of this exponential function, right? So now the way to get the forward price here is you just applying this formula, which becomes straightforward. So spot price multiplied by exponential, and then exponential, whatever we include in this parenthesis is basically the exponent of the exponential function. So we just add a couple of things, this 5% minus this 1%. Now, one important trick, we cannot multiply by time right here after the parenthesis, because then what Excel will assume is that, well, because you have closed the parenthesis here after the exponential function, now what you're typing is no longer in the exponent of the exponential function, but it is now just multiplying whatever the result is. So Excel will solve the exponent and then we'll multiply by time. We don't want that to happen. So we will do a little adjustment, right? Let's just get this 5% minus 1% in there in its own parenthesis, and then let's multiply by time. And by time, if this is a 3-month contract, let's remember we should state time in yearly terms. So 3 months stated as as years would be 3 divided by 12. So we can have this 3 divided by 12 here, right? All of this is inside the parenthesis of the exponential function, right? And there we go. So basically, that's the solution to our problem. Now, let's go to another quick problem on forward contracts, but now we are interested in finding the value. So when we're looking at the value of a forward contract, basically what we're doing is you buy, I'm saying buy, but it's quote unquote, you're not paying money for that, but you're buying. Let's assume you're buying this forward contract. You're, in other words, entering into this forward agreement, to this contractual agreement. And now let's just, once you do that, there is a price that is agreed between the parties that are signing this contract. That price is the forward price. Now let's assume that once you're holding that contract in your hands, right, and let's assume you're selling at this price, then the price of forward contracts like yours drop, or let's assume that the price goes up. So if the price goes up, you are the holder of this forward contract, then you're basically having this gain, and that gain is what we consider the forward value. If the contract you bought it at $10, that means you will have to pay $10. If you're buying this contract, you will have to pay $10 for some commodity X in time T, and then the price of that forward goes down, the forward price goes down. That means that right now you could issue new forward contracts for a price of 8 instead of 10. So you're not that happy, right? So then you would have a value that is negative, right? So how do we get the value? A couple of steps, you have them on Canvas too. The first thing we need to do is, well, we have this contract and the forward price, it is already 36. So that's the forward price you agreed, and that's the forward price that is relevant, that is binding in your forward contract. Now, you notice that the spot price, or in other words, the shares of Wendy's are selling at 38 today. So you know, and we already know how to calculate the forward price, and if interest rates are 5%, or the interest rate is 5%, we can calculate the price of this forward contract again today, given the updated price of Wendy's. So how can we do that? Well, the way to do it is simply getting this spot price and then multiplying that spot price by, let me write it here. It would be S0, and then we would multiply by 1 plus R to the power of T. So let's do that here. Updated forward price. So because the price of Wendy's is now 38, we have to calculate this updated price, which will be the spot price multiplied by 1 plus the rate to the power of time, and time is 6 months. So in this case, time is just, and I'm gonna type 6 here, divided by 12. Okay, let's just do this delivery, 6 months. Now let's write this formula again, which is basically what we are going to do is just use this formula. So it would be S0, 38 multiplied by 1 plus the rate to the power of 6 divided by 12, right? Because we are simply stating the time to delivery until the delivery date in terms of years. So there we go. We have this price, which is 38.93. Now that's the updated price, but that's not the solution to the question. The question is asking what is the value of the forward contract. So once you know there is a difference now between the updated forward price and the price that you paid for this forward contract, right? So the way to get this value of your forward contract, you are happy because the forward contract is actually higher, right, than what you bought it for. So basically you bought it at 36. That means you will pay 36 for the shares of Wendy's 6 months from now, whereas everyone buying these forward contracts now will have instead to pay 38.93. So then the value is simply this 38 minus 36. So in other words, your updated value minus the value you actually agreed in your forward contract. So that is value at time t. In other words, that is the value at expiration. But once we have that value, which is the value at expiration, then we need to bring that value, we need to bring that number to present value, and the way to do it is very simple. It's just the formula of present value, which is this divided by 1 plus this rate, and then to the power of time, and the time is 0.5. Just in case, I'm not sure, but just in case, let me wrap all of this in a parenthesis. And there we go, we have 2.86. Now it is important to say this is a value, which is stated per share, but now let's keep in mind that our contract controls 100 shares. So this is not the value of the hence this is not the value of our contract. So the value of the contract is this multiplied by, now let me add this information here, which is contract size, and it's 100, right? Because we are given that information here, 100. We just didn't write it along the other values. And then finally, we just multiply this price, which is the present value of the value of our contract. We multiply it by 100. So more intuitively, this means in more intuitive terms, this is simply telling us that you have a forward contract in your hands. So 6 months from now, you're able to buy at 36, and you could do this. You could sell a forward contract at 38 today. Once you calculate that the updated price is 38, you can sell a forward contract at 38.93. And keep in mind, you already bought a forward contract at 36. This means that by the time we get to the delivery date, you will be able to sell the asset, Wendy shares, at 38.93, but you will be able to buy these shares at 36. So you will basically have a gain of 2.93 for each share of Wendy's. Now, that of course is happening 6 months from now, so we don't care about these gains that are happening 6 months from now, because we, after learning about time value of money, we care about present value. So then in terms of present value, this is 2.86. In other words, you don't need to wait. That's another way to view it on Canvas. It's that is the example, that one example that is given. You don't have to wait 6 months so you can enjoy this payoff. You can instead borrow the money in the bank, and you can borrow exactly 2.8675. And when you're borrowing that, you will also have you can spend that, and you will have exactly the amount of money that is needed to repay the loan and to repay the interest expense. And now if we look at the contract forward contract value, we need to multiply by the contract size, right? Because the value is. So in other words, you will make $286 if you wait until expiration of the contract. And that is, of course, in terms of present value. So that is the value today. Okay, awesome. So I hope these two problem solving to get together, these two problems, is helpful, and I am confident it will in fact help you working when you're working with the practice quizzes or with the credit quiz. So thank you very much for your attention. Let's keep in touch.